Hi, welcome to this new series on making Unity games from scratch. I chose to do this one with the game Tic-Tac-Toe. It's a very familiar game to many people, so we can spend most of our time learning the techniques of making games and not thinking about how the game itself actually works. There are some other benefits of choosing such a simple game. We get to skip covering concepts like asset bundles. If you're brand new to Unity, you might not even know what that is yet, and that's fine. And it's nice that we can keep that complexity out. It's basically a way to separate some of the resources you use in your game from the player build itself, and the client will sort of download those resources as needed after downloading the client. But anyway, we get to avoid all that, which is good for a beginner course. I think you'll be okay if you've never worked with Unity before. I think you'll be able to follow along. It would certainly help if you've opened up the editor before, you know how the panes are called, you can do basic navigation. That would certainly help. And if you do have some programming experience as well and making games in Unity, there's likely something to gain from this series as well. So I avoid using any kind of art assets in this project. For the game board itself, I'll be using UI panels, and I'll be using text, TextMesh Pro and text boxes to sort of represent the X's and O's on the game board. So there's no art at all, and that's what I'm going for. We're focusing on engineering ideas and programming. So that said, this project is not meant to look nice. It's not meant to be a final product that you would impress a customer with. You can certainly take it that direction and do whatever you want with it, or your own project if you're working on your own. But I just want to be clear about that. I was not trying to impress anyone with art here. It's going to be, your simple bread and butter to represent the gameplay. And we won't be messy or ugly necessarily, but it's not. I'm not an artist. I can't create really nice looking art, so just be aware of that. I do have a GitHub location for this project if you want to download the completed project, which I have readily available. I'll post that link below. But do note that we will be building this project completely from scratch, so you don't have to download the project to follow along. You don't even have to do it at all. We'll get to the end by working through this series, but it's there if you want to look at it. If you get stuck somewhere and can't figure out how to make something work, it might be a useful tool for you. So again, I'll put that link in. I am Syntactic Sugar Daddy on GitHub, and this project is called Tic-Tac-Toe. So I'll give you a quick demo of how the game works so you can see what it is we're developing. This is the main menu that I have open right now, and a simple exit button, which won't work while we're running in the editor, but once we put this on a device, that will have the effect that you want it to have. And then I offer a one-player version and a two-player version. The one-player version assumes one human player holding the device, and then it has an AI component to it that will make moves on behalf of a computer player. And the two-player version of the game is meant for when you're going to maybe share your device with another human friend in the room with you, and you guys can take turns claiming cells and playing the game in the traditional way and avoid. You don't need any paper or anything. You can play right on your device. So those are your three options here on the main menu. I didn't make a splash screen or anything like that. Again, you're free to add all the dressing that you want to this. And I'll start with, like I said, exit won't do anything in the editor, but we'll start with one player and you can see the AI. So what you didn't see is that this randomly selected either a human or a computer player to go first. maybe we'll see that when we try a new game, but it's same player, so it's simply waiting for me to claim a square, and I'll do that. If you notice, the text display changed to turn computer there before the computer made a move. That wasn't me, that was generated by the program. So I'll claim this cell. Now see, went to computer again. They made their move at same player, so I know it's my turn. I could win here. I'll delay it a little bit, play the game. You can see the computer here is not very smart, so the AI is choosing completely randomly among available cells. There's no sort of strategy, extra logic that says, that warrants it that I had 2 squares and I was only 1 spot away from winning the game, in which case it should have blocked me there. But tic-tac-toe is such a simple game where if I made it have strong logic, then you could never win. Every game would result in a tie, right? We know that about tic-tac-toe. So to make it interesting, and I've noticed even with my kids, who are very young, it's fun because they don't know the full strategy yet, and so they'll win sometimes, they'll lose sometimes. But that's how it works. There's nothing. It's a pretty dumb AI, just completely random. Anyway, you can see when I win, I choose to highlight the winning cells to make it clear. We display this text box that says player wins. Had the computer won, it would have said computer. And that's that. You have an option to quit, which brings you back to the main menu. Or if I would have hit new game, it would have started just like this. This was a player again. Let me see if I can get one that'll start with... there you go. There's a computer starting. So the first player is always X, and the second player is always O. So I'm O in this case. Should we see if we can let the computer? We'll do a tie game, would be good too. So you can see there's a tie game when you tie. Maybe I'll play really poorly here to let the computer win. Oof. There you go. Computer wins. So yeah, that's how the 1-player mode works. I will quit and go back to 2-player. And notice that it'll accept every click now. It assumes that 2 humans are playing. So if you wanted to be a jerk, you can make your opponents move for them. Just keep tapping on the screen, but you see how it goes. You'll notice the text is reflecting the player's turn. It's telling you that it's O's turn. And O wins. So the same idea. Extra things to keep in mind. Notice you can't claim cells after a game's over. You can't overwrite them while the game's going. See, I'm clicking there. Stuff like that you have to watch out for. But that is the basic. That is the game. That's what we're implementing here in a nutshell. So, one thing I'd like to note about this is that I'm taking a different approach in this, at least in terms of what I've seen from YouTube lessons on learning how to code in Unity. I'm going to focus more on how to design these kind of games. What I don't like is that a lot of the instructors that I've watched just sort of jump right into the code. They start, typing code right away, like you're in their mindset and you understand what they're thinking, and they don't really explain how they developed their ideas, why they organized their classes a certain way. They just pretty much jump in, and that would certainly work in a really easy tic-tac-toe game like this, but you'll find as you get on to larger projects, that's a recipe for disaster. It's really wasteful. You run into dead ends, and when you're collaborating with other people, certainly they deserve better than just sort of jumping off the deep end and throwing code all over the place. You have an obligation to be neat and communicate your ideas clearly to other people, so you can interface with them and work efficiently together. So that'll probably be the first phase of this. I did actually deploy this app to the Play Store. The problem is that it is impossible to find from a search of the Play Store. There are so many tic-tac-toe games you wouldn't even believe it, and I could have guessed that, right? It's probably a really nice beginner project for a lot of people. But even searching by my name, my company name, and stuff like that, I could not get my game to show up in the results. Otherwise, I would refer you to that, and so you could see the game that way too. You could download it right on your device. We'll build one and put it on a local device. We can run it right here on our Windows machine. We can do all of that stuff too. So if you do have any tips on how to find your specific app amongst many of them on the Play Store, I'd really appreciate if you leave something in the comments about how to find that. So I think that should wrap it up for this. We'll go into design next, but I'll put that in a separate video to keep things organized. We'll go over what the app should look like, which you saw here with the demo, but sort of the foundation of that. We'll talk about how to organize the classes used in here. You can see I have some in my scripts folder here, sort of the thought process behind how these came to be. And eventually, after the design part, we will get into the coding itself. And yeah, we'll take it from there. We'll do it from scratch. We'll deploy. And as usual, feel free to leave comments if you want to direct the progress of this playlist, if there are topics that you want to spend more time on, or things that I don't have on my radar that you would like to see. I'm definitely open to that. So, welcome to the playlist, and we'll see you in the next video.